Welcome to, I guess this is the meta show for Frivolous Gravitas. I don't know if we want to get into that title, but maybe we should let people figure out how.
I think they'll figure it out.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. We should trust people to come to their own conclusions instead of instituting stuff on them. So
look up a dictionary if they're going to be on this channel.
I got a bunch of them here. Oh, it's over there. Mirrored.
Yeah, so, you can change that in the settings, by the way. Oh.
It's okay. So yeah, this is the second episode we're doing to just kind of flesh out what we are, what we're trying to do with this. I don't think we're trying to do anything too big, but we would usually just talk and not record it. And we'd be doing this for, a decade or decade and a half now. We've always kind of said, like, what if we recorded this even back in like early 2000s? We thought we were so smart that we should be recording ourselves.
Spilling our mental seeds all over the Kleenex of life.
Yeah. For a very scatological metaphor there.
I can't help it.
So why don't we introduce ourselves? You want to go first?
Yeah.
Who we are and what we're about.
I'm Christopher Driver, published author, musician, writer, blogger, coder, programmer, yada, yada, yada.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, main interests are, or not interests, but...
That's his book.
Oh, thank you.
I got
plug.
Yeah.
Yeah. My main focus is generally anything to do with integrated systems or game theory, artificial intelligence, economics mostly, but that other stuff kind of finds its way into the mold every now and then. Our first episode we did, I was hosting and interviewed Jordan on his lovely thesis. I guess we can get into that later too. So you might as well just take it from there. Who are you?
I'm Jordan Roy. I am a graduate of the University of Manitoba Archival Studies program. I've got a bachelor's in history with honors, I guess, if that means anything nowadays. My interests do include history, politics, philosophy, and I generally, as I study history, I find that as everything happened in history, no topic is off limits for me. So I tend to dive into all the pools, though I feel like this makes me a jack of all trades and a master of one. So, but yeah, I'm currently in the Great White North, teaching while everyone figures out COVID, and yeah. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm not really good at autobiographies. I'm just kind of...
Well, it's all good. Maybe we'll just dig into it then, and then as we go along, people will figure stuff out.
Yeah. So one of the reasons, the purpose of what we're trying to do is to kind of explore topics that we want to explore in a more formal fashion than just kind of, shooting the shit. What we want to do is I know more about one thing, Chris knows more about another thing, and maybe we have somebody else that knows more about one thing, and we can act as the expert. And like in a seminar, we come to, through discussion, more of a nuanced understanding of the topic that we want to, flesh out. But so generally we'll be switching. The format will be such that one of us will take the expert side and one of us will take the expert side. So as expert as we can be with our study off screen, and one of us will take the curious, the layman, the curious body. And this isn't like this won't be a critical analysis. This will be this will be an analysis from and a discussion from the position of curiosity. So we're not going to be trying to destroy the others, but trying to is understand the other's perspective, as well as maybe reinforce it through some rigor. Though some
Can I interject on that point though?
Yeah.
Just to sort of make it more clear.
Yes.
Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris did a really awesome thing during their discussions, which I really would like to point out and absolutely recommend everybody who has a chance to sit and listen to, like start to finish, because it's just great. But they set up what they call like the steel man. So rather than making a straw man argument, they set up the steel man argument, whereas you hear the other person's side and you try to make the best case for their side as you possibly can, because invariably, like what I'm doing now and interjecting, it's just going to add context and depth to an already thought out idea that individually you probably, or I know I wouldn't think to say it out loud or specify, because in my head it's obviously common knowledge, and in your head what you know is common knowledge. So I think setting up our dialogue in the spirit of sort of the ancient traditional dialogues, where it's more for the exploration of thought and finding common ground. I think
kind of a public Socratic discussion.
Yes. So a modern Socratic discussion.
Yeah, because I find, well, at least when going through my education, and I find a lot when I try to when I get involved in lectures, and especially even when I'm teaching, a lot of what I'm finding is that everyone else is trying to get that gotcha moment, that, oh yes, but your argument is invalid because of this, or the thing you're teaching doesn't make sense because I'm the student, or I'm the layman, and I've got you, so I get some points. It's not about points. It's I want to understand this thing as best as possible, because I want to know what is something like, I don't know, game theory. What is this guy talking about? Why did they build this bridge like this? And it serves no purpose to merely be critical of a argument as you take the critical thinking course and you go into all your other classes and you're just like, aha, now I can be critical of things all the time. But like, I'm not a critic. I don't, rate movies for a living. I'm a historian. I'm an archivist.
We can go into their utility on another topic.
Yes. So I think we're laboring this. I think we might have gotten our point across. I
think it is worth belaboring though, since it is like it's gonna be the pervasive focus of all of the videos on this channel. Like the cast itself is going to be dedicated to like extrapolating vanity from knowledge and then combining knowledge without either vanity. I think that's the bigger purpose to this.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I wanted to touch on too, is that this isn't about me, this isn't about you, this is about what we're talking about. I'm just a guy who's studied and read a bunch of books and now wants to talk about what I read in the books with people, so that I can either pass that on to other people and give them a more different perspective, not necessarily my own. I have my own, that's my perspective. You can have your own. I'm just, it works for me, and I want you to find one that works for you. But at the same time, this isn't a self-aggrandizing project. I'm sure my families and everyone that's around me will be like, oh, cool, you put something on YouTube, which is actually, it's kind of cool. But at the same time, you have it's another line on my CV. But at the same time, we've been talking in a very similar format with each other like this since we met in high school, and formalizing it allows us to structure our thoughts a bit better and allows us to get to the meat of it without, deciding, hey, let's turn into the Burger King, and
Yeah.
this train of our thought.
While still maintaining that fluidity of dialogue that you don't get from, say, a structured debate or an organized lecture or public talk. You don't really get that back and forth dynamic, which I think is really crucial to human learning in general.
Lost you there for a couple words.
What?
I think we got the
good.
hang
It's
of
recording on my end, so you just missed stuff, but I don't.
Okay. Yay.
Yay.
That's okay. It's only like 6 or 7 words.
I've got plenty of more.
So why don't we talk about let's talk about our interests and what things that we want to discuss. So we first we did our first trial run, our first episode, which will be coming out soon. And on my thesis concerning digital access systems in archives, and we did that one mostly because it was right there on our desk. But we want to talk about a lot of topics that we may not be as expert on, or ones that just honestly fascinate us. So we've been talking about. I'm personally interested in talking about aspects of history and what history is and the meaning behind history and why it fascinates us, as well as why its utility, as everyone claims its utility. But beyond that, I find it to be, it holds a fascination to us that I'd like to get into with one episode. I've also been toying with a work of mine on the nature of trust in modern society, where I want to talk about how we need to not just live and let live, but let people come to conclusions, people as in everyone we meet, to come to different conclusions and trust that they're going to use those conclusions responsibly, just as we trust that our children will grow up and they see a scary movie and they're not gonna sit there traumatized for the rest of their life, that they will come to terms with the trust that people will grow on their own without our micromanaging of them. And I see a lot of problems with this, and I would like to get into that. I also want to get into cynicism and modern discourse, as well as cynicism and ancient discourse. These are kind of just the 3 off the top of my head, but I'm also interested in psychology, philosophy, even maybe more narrow topics like certain things in history that would be interesting to talk about, as well as I don't know how much we want to get into politics, seeing as how the political landscape right now isn't just really a minefield, more of a just ongoing nuclear explosion at the center of our solar system. So maybe we'll wade into that after we've done a dozen or so episodes. But
my own proclivities would be to like absolutely get into politics, because I think there's nothing more relevant to our like social governance and
yeah, just on that then, because one thing that I've been interested in is kind of doing because I've been looking at this as a citizen, current politics, and I've been looking at this as a historian, and they are not different. They are not the same perspective. And I wouldn't mind getting an episode on that where we talk about how this is interesting from a historical perspective. I don't know if anyone's talking about it, because like, what's the utility of this now? But I'm looking at this and I don't want to say like, well, this guy's Caesar and he's obviously going to do this, and this guy's this, and I just want to kind of explore something kind of like a step back from a step back. I thought that might be a fun thing to do, and I've been kind of talking about that with my wife off and on, like, and with my other friends who are here in my town. Where I kind of will just say on the side, it's like, oh man, I can't believe that this guy or that guy did that. But the historian in me is fascinated, absolutely and utterly fascinated by what's happening right now. I'm going to get a lot of flack. How can you be so dispassionate? It's like, well, I'm not dispassionate. but I can also look at things from different perspectives. Take a step over here, take a step over there. And there's another thing we could talk about.
I think
But
that's
yes,
one of the benefits of our dialogues too, though, is we're both coming from kind of separate places, whereas I'm like a public school grad who barely made it through school. And
yeah,
you're kind of like from the opposite. Not to say that I'm dumb or anything. I'm kind of dumb, but if I was smart, I would have done more at school. But like
well, if we were all
the
smarter.
approach to education is just different for different people, I think. And I think that's fundamentally why society needs to govern in an inclusive way. We can get into that after, but I think like our angles of approach are going to be very different, where you're going to probably reference classes and lectures and source material and whatnot, and I'm probably more going to reference what I've played with.
Oh yeah, well that's why this will, I think this will work, is because we do come from those different perspectives. Although the basis of similarity is that just because I went to school doesn't mean I only read what was on the syllabus. And just because you didn't go to school doesn't mean you didn't read a book. Doesn't mean you didn't sit down and study. Yeah, and that's what I think. It's like, oh, you probably didn't make you read this, or they didn't make you read that. It's like, no, I made me read that. And I treated university more like a guide than a basic training course. And I believe you treated life more like a horse to be tamed than than something that's just coming at you. And so these different perspectives will allow us to disagree as well as come to a consensus, which is awesome. So could you just maybe go through I cut you off and then you cut me off and we cut each other off.
That's how we talk, though.
And then we did a waltz.
That's the only thing I write down is stuff so that I can come back and say, sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah. Do you want to quickly go into maybe a couple ideas or topics of interest or fields of interest that you would like to?
Yeah, absolutely. Futurism, science and futurism in general, like where it's taking our species and where we can, contribute to that end. Data, how it's used, how it's manipulated, how it's misinterpreted, how it should be interpreted, all kinds of things like that, whether it's through programming and data science or just how it shapes our general perspectives in day-to-day world, like Cambridge Analytica during 2015, that kind of thing. I'd love to talk about like sociology and like the influence that society has on arts and culture and the influence that arts and culture has on society, both in shaping where we want to go as well as describing where we've been. I think that's like more than ripe for at least a couple episodes, given whatever trajectory you want to take it from a technology perspective or from scholastic perspective, or
that's a big one.
Interactions or
you could go a lot of different ways with that. Like you could just look at I could get into, we could start that instantly. I'm not going to. I almost starting to pull books off the shelf to reference and make arguments. So
everything for me hinges back on philosophy, because like as far as I'm concerned, science is an offshoot of philosophy. So like the scientific method was described and invented and promulgated by philosophers. So we could easily do, thousands of hours just on philosophy.
We could do something like scientific method, philosophy or tool, and have a debate like that. Because I generally teach scientific method. Well, when I teach it, it's like, here's how it works. Here's how you examine something, like the very rote, like how to find out how something works, to use it properly. And then I teach it as if it's a tool that we discovered using philosophy. But it's got its roots in so many things. Like you could go back to Lucretius, as you see someone like Stephen Greenblatt road. You could go back to the Renaissance and even the Reformation, like move away from a overriding authority, telling everyone this is the way things are. And then once the Reformation happens, everyone's like, wait, I got to figure out the way things are. Oh no, how do we do that? And then all of a sudden we have to figure out our own answers. Okay, I'll cut you off. I remember we talked about, get back on track. We also wanted to talk about intelligence systems, specifically artificial intelligence systems, which I have encountered and you have studied. So that would also be a interesting thing for you to lead.
That and like health and wellness, nature, renewable energy.
Probably don't have much interesting to say about health and wellness, but renewable energy.
I wrote a book on it.
Oh yeah, you did. I also have I'm gonna get in trouble for this, but I have a lot of negative experience, not with myself, but with others, and wellness charlatanry, which I take exception to. I know I'm in trouble, but probably gonna get a phone call later. But I do find that a lot of people just assume things and take things for granted when it actually needs a lot of examination, and there's still a lot of ambiguity.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to a lot of human psychology, like trying to find the simple solution to make sense of life when things all feel like magic.
I'm just taking some of these down, but I think an overriding early episode that we should do is on fear itself, and how fear drives a lot of society's more negative aspects. If I could actually, let me put that one together, because I think I've got an idea for a class on fear, and I want to put a little thing together, and I'll see if I can get back.
Hard, man. Have at her.
No, I'm just getting ideas here. So moving forward, one of the things that we can do is we can have guests where we both play the layman and just grill an expert. We know people outside of us too who are experts in their own field. Could bring in an expert on topics that we know absolutely nothing about, who could try and help us understand what they are doing in their field, or what their understanding of a certain topic or idea is. And that'll be interesting. I think I've only got like one or two people that I can think of with regards to this, so that might be a special edition type of thing.
Or when we fine.
Get tired.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We've got like tens of hours of other shit to put on here, so
yeah.
No rush to find guests.
So
you're my guest.
It's kind of nice to, even though we're in different cities.
I'm just saying it for the camera.
Once the recording goes off, it's like, oh, that guy thinks he's just with his beard.
Well, just wait till you see all the bunny ears I put on your video after.
So a couple, I guess, guidelines that we're going to be going through. We don't really care if you have a totalizing view on something, and if you're just going to yell at us out of disagreement, then cool.
By all means, put it in
the comments. Yeah. We'll discuss it.
Definitely argue with you.
To a point. If it becomes an ad nauseum,
I will definitely argue with you.
Yeah, he'll make his own show where I will not sanction the things. We will try and maintain civility at all costs. If we're going to insult somebody, we will do it with a velvet glove. I hope.
Like a glove smack.
Yeah. And we'll try to be serious, but we also won't. Nothing is sacred. Everything's up for discussion.
Including poo jokes.
Yes, within reason.
including poo jokes.
Including poo jokes.
I'm not editing this out.
I don't think there's anything in here that I'd call editing out. I think I had a coughing fit in the last one that might need an editing out. Or did I have I had to go get the door or something? It was just like, oh, edit this out. Yeah, I can't think of anything else we need to talk about. Was there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, if we could, I wouldn't even mind spending the remainder of this session just talking about like what we could get out of the channel, like to inspire others to think openly, to change the world so our children have better places to live. Like the actual like focus to me isn't, like you said, it's not a vanity project. I really want specifically, I want to teach people how to think and question things and maybe learn something in the process, but sort of by watching how some other people like us might do it. I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I don't think we need to be under any grand illusions that we're gonna, turn the ship of, public discourse. But the fact that we could have this discussion between each other, and that influences two people's perspectives on whatever the heck we're talking about. But if we put it online and 40 people end up watching 20% of our content, well, then we've helped, maybe, hopefully, we've influenced. Influence is kind of a bad word, but we've affected their lives, even in that small amount, and maybe they got something out of it. And I feel like in society nowadays, we have this big, grand idea where well, it's always been a human thing, but right now it's very obvious, is that everyone should be, and it's very evident in our movies, where everyone feels that they need to make a world-changing effect on society. And when in reality, the best thing you can do is help those within your immediate vicinity. I think this kind of harkens back to some kind of like Kenshin philosophy, where I can't save everybody, but everyone within arm's reach is within the scope of my help. And if I just help a couple people, then the world's better and they can help other people. And we all think, well, how is that? You saved one person, but what about the 3 million other people? Or like, so what's the point? Or you did this. And it's like, it's a bad argument. And it's an argument from a place of fear. And you should aim to help those around you. And in that sphere of your help, you can do a lot of good. And this expands our sphere. So me getting I don't know, I worked as a security guard before, and didn't feel like I was helping. I got an education which expanded my knowledge, which expanded what I could do to those people within my sphere of in my vicinity that I could aid: my family, my friends, my the people I worked with, the people I encountered every day at the supermarket. I can help their lives. But I got a master's degree, and now I try to find archival work where I can help people I can help what's in front of the people who made the records that are in front of me by helping them carry on their memory into the future. That's something I can do. Everyone wants to do something different. And that's the thing. Just because one person does one thing doesn't mean you have to help in the same way. We don't all have to work at a soup kitchen. We don't all have to hand out blankets. We can all still try to do something. And with my education and with Chris's perspective and
education,
well, everything you've got, just because you don't have a master's degree doesn't mean you still can't partake. And our understanding, we feel, will not leave the world a worse place upon someone encountering it. And even if you disagree with us, maybe the fact of encountering the discussion itself, and even going into the comments and having a proper, well thought out response, will help a couple extra people in a broader sphere. maybe.
That is the world, though. That's what I'm getting at. I mean, it is
it's
hubris to think that you could be the one person that, reaches 2 billion. But if you reach one person who reaches 2 billion, like if you would have reached Trump before he became a narcissistic president in childhood when his daddy didn't love him, the world might look very, very different today. Like,
right. And Trump could have become a worse guy if he'd like, oh, now I'm even worse. Like, how do we know? I don't really want to.
He could have been Stalin.
Yeah. It's like, maybe he's just something about him that's like, I don't want to speak to this because I dislike him, but I feel like a nuanced opinion of Trump is a bad thing nowadays. It's like a naughty word if you don't, say something. If you can't say something nice about someone, but like the other thing is that when you're a kid, you're just like, you don't have something nice to say, then don't say it. Well, it's okay.
Well, there are some things we can say, like actual psychologists have called him a narcissist. So I can say point blank that some professionals would say this. And since medicine isn't like an exact science, any diagnosis qualifies me to say it out loud. That's sort of where I come.
But I've met a lot of politicians who I would call a narcissist. Some even very benign. And I just like, they like their face up there. They like having their name on signs. They like having.
I'd suggest that's probably why they're in politics.
Yeah, this is not a Trump problem.
No, it's just. But we reward politicians by getting them elected, and only vain narcissists get elected because that's just the nature.
I keep thinking of like Tolkien, who said anybody who had opinions along the lines of anyone who puts himself up for election isn't worthy of the post, and he was very strong. He was a very subtle guy, but when he was talking about politicians, his subtlety would become. It would blunt quite a bit. And
yeah, if I remember right, I think Nietzsche had no love lost between politicians either.
No, Tolkien was the man who doesn't want to rule is the quality of in a person that you want to rule. The problem is getting him up there, but then you run into
like the Richard Feynmans and the Albert Einsteins and the Noam Chomsky. They're never elected into government. And the one time you get somebody like Al Franken in government, he ends up resigning because he has too much, virtue.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want Albert Einstein to run for office. He was a great guy, but I feel like he would have gotten in the post and went, I want to go back to do science. I'm just going to sit here and do my equations.
I think he would have made a science out of politics, though. That's why I think he would have been good. Same with Feynman. Like the reason the Columbia disaster, the shuttle that exploded, Richard Feynman was a physicist that was part of the Columbia investigation team or whatever. Yeah, and he's the one that figured it out because he didn't have any of the lobbyist backers or whatever trying to push him. Or I'll get back to our old word of influence. But I think that comes back to what you were saying about like the ambition of the channel and whatnot. And I think like the utility of it might not necessarily be the breadth and scope that it ultimately achieves, but anyone on earth with an internet connection is going to have access to whatever it is that we have to offer, right?
Yeah.
So if anyone can glean anything from it, whether it's, oh, these two guys have no idea what they're talking about, I'm going to make a better channel. And if they make a better channel, like I'll be on there supporting them, like in the comments, like, way to go, dude.
It adds to the discourse. And
it makes us better as a people, like as a society, that we even engage in proper discourse. And I don't think we're doing that. And I really, really want to show people how to do that properly.
Well, that also entails that we have even if we're only reaching a couple people, that does put a responsibility on our shoulders to run this properly, to do our research beforehand and not just talk out our butts, and to think before we speak, and before we get all riled up, and not to get heated. If we're setting an example, we also have to set the example that we know what we're doing, and we aren't just gonna go out there and say, here's what I think and everyone should believe that. It's like, no, here's what I think, period. And that's kind of what I was talking about with that trust thing that I wanted to get into, is like, you have to trust that people are going to come to righteous action through a diversity of opinion. And this goes for raising children. This goes for, letting people have different opinions on politics. This goes for managing projects at work. Trust me, we'll do this. And so I guess as viewers, all 6 of you probably, trust us to do this responsibly. Although if we aren't, or we don't, or you have qualms, let us know. That's your responsibility as a viewer. This isn't a give and take. It's a give and give. We want stuff from the viewer, although as much as it pains me to actually go into the comics section, rule like, what was it? I don't know, the rule where you just never go into the comments section, never read the comments.
Well, I would have to disagree with you though, and like doing the research beforehand. Obviously, we don't want to just sit up here and like have nothing useful to contribute.
We'll just pretend
Obviously,
we're the smartest guys.
Is, but if our goal and objective, or as it is from my perspective anyway, is to encourage thought, I would like people to be able to critically listen to us and decide for themselves, well, he sounded like he just kind of brushed past that with a weak argument. I'm not going to take that in as truth. Like, I don't want people to think that I have something that's right.
Yeah.
Truth. I don't want to teach math by saying memorize this formula because it's right. I want to be the teacher that shows them how to arrive at the right formula. Even if the example is wrong, they'll be like, aha, it's wrong because of this. Here's a better formula.
Yeah, so
it's still a learning process. Even if we don't do it properly, I think we're still providing a benefit and a service by engaging with the intent of not preaching, but showing.
Okay, I got an idea. So rule for the comments, it has to be over 25 words.
I'll take that.
Yeah, if you're gonna comment,
full thoughts, please.
Full thoughts, 25 words or more, and cite your sources. Unless it's like, where did you get your glasses? I love them. Or Chris, I love your hoodie, or something, or I don't know.
This is my professional attire, by the way. It's what disabled people get to wear to work.
I work from my desk at home in my office, and I still try and maintain civility. Maybe I'll wear a blazer, but I just try and wear.
You'll probably see me in a collared shirt in the summer, but not when there's snow on the ground.
I think we're probably doing good. Final thoughts?
The sphere of good that we're intending to
probably write that down.
Put out there.
Yeah.
I'm quoting you, actually.
I know, I gotta write down my own thoughts there. It's just
okay, yeah.
I had a professor who was like, if you have a thought, write it down immediately, because your brain will go on to think about other things.
That's funny. My OCD group tells me not to because I write too much.
Oh, pish posh.
We're exactly like fucking doppelgangers. That's funny. But with respect to that sphere of good that we're trying to implement, I think that sort of falls part and parcel to what everyone claims their life's ambitions are, and their goals and aspirations are supposedly there to project. A lot of, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with like donations or soup kitchens and stuff like that, but
oh no,
there's a deeper level to learning benevolence. There is a way of being benevolent that eventually supersedes a tax credit or the appearance of goodwill. And I think like the subtext of our product, the qualia of our podcast, I think it should reference that too.
Yeah.
If not in explicit word like I'm doing now, because obviously we won't drone on in detail in every episode about what we're doing. But for this introductory one, I'd like to just put that out in the open.
That's why I called this one the meta episode, because we are talking about the show itself. So
That's what meta means, yes.
I thought I was being clever, but I think it just sounds goofy, and we're gonna go with that, just like the title of the whole thing itself. Yeah. So
Frivolous Gravitas, welcome. Congratulations on surviving.
Yeah, I think that's all I have to say.